Day 1146 of the Ukrainian War Map, also known as the Russo-Ukrainian War. Juzzie here, and today is another update as I take a simplified and down-to-earth approach to some of the most important happenings on the ground in Ukraine. So starting off, we'll take a look at those Russian losses, as currently Russia sits on more than 933,000 military personnel losses, representing an additional 1,310 lost in the past day. Then as for hardware, 19 tanks, 42 APVs, 59 artillery, and 2 air defense systems. But a quick shout out to the almost 180 soft targets increasingly seen by the Mad Max army. Then headed to the map with a bit of an oddball mix of information today, with biggest frontline activity seen due to the AFU's repelling of a massive Russian assault in the Zaporizhzhia direction on the eastern part of the front, with at least a dozen armored vehicles, including 3 tanks, and a staggering 41 motorcycles used as part of these invader operations. The AFU's Poltava Brigade of the 17th halted the offensive, resulting in a confirmed 2 infantry fighting vehicles destroyed and 1 MTLB APC also destroyed, with the remainder of the column seen to take on a great deal of fire, leading most vehicles appearing to sustain at least some level of damage. Then also, the western part of this front also saw its own combat engagements. Take for instance, Russian towed barrels including 2 Mr. B howitzers and small mortars identified and destroyed, alongside a series of small civilian vehicles and Buhanka vans in use by the Russian forces, with this operation as part of the AFU's 44th Artillery Brigade. And truly a set of events that provides us a look into the increasing obsolescence of artillery warfare. Take for example these 2 towed howitzers, the Mr. Bs, with a max range of 24.7 kilometers for their 152mm artillery shells, where that's no longer outside the operational range of frontline Ukrainian FPV quadcopters, in terms of an increasingly large quantity that they have at their disposal now, extending their reach significantly into Russian-held territory, now conducting kamikaze drone operations 30 to 40 kilometers from their positions. This is somewhat of a new development for the AFU, which did exist in smaller amounts, dribs and drabs here and there in the past, but now in the second quarter of 2025, the AFU has truly started to reach this mass prevalence of these types of longer range frontline attack drones, some of which even are reaching that range via means of fiber optic hardline, and thereby countering any potential Russian electronic warfare attempts to disable them. So it's a situation that's only going to become a further challenge for Russia's ground forces, with their attempts to fix the problems perhaps the only way they know how. Just keep adding more fuel to the fire and keep sending more troops in. Then on the map, and headed all the way across briefly to the still active front of Kursk, where the Ukrainian military from the 129th Territorial Defense Brigade destroyed a Russian armored vehicle, almost certainly a tank, covered in its makeshift protections. Then to take a look around the map, because another North Korean supplied M1978 Koksan self-propelled howitzer in Russian service was seen getting knocked out somewhere at the front line. This might be the 8th or 9th destroyed now, out of the 30-odd received. Also in front of the Koksan was the Russian BMP infantry fighting vehicle, potentially acting as a support vehicle, which is especially needed for these old North Korean SPGs. Also on the map, an upgraded T-64BM Bulat tank of the Ukrainian forces successfully withstood a cumulative projectile strike on its turret roof. The Advanced Dynamic Protection Systems, specifically the ERA, the Explosive Reactive Armor blocks, effectively performed their duty, preserving the tank and crew, and showcasing the tank's enhanced defensive attributes. So while some of the ERA blocks remain intact, as you can see there, others detonated upon impact, effectively scattering the incoming enemy's projectile's energy, thereby obstructing tank penetration. Then to various sectors of the map, as Russian mill bloggers are increasingly vocal about their concerns regarding their military's operational methods within Ukraine, specifically citing unsustainable tactics, with ongoing complaints highlighting a growing concern over the depletion of Russia's material and manpower resources. The mill bloggers claim frontline commanders face pressure from superiors to conduct more infantry assaults without sufficient planning time, often ordering attacks merely to report activity upwards, so up the chain. This creates a destructive cycle where poorly trained infantry casualties are replaced with similarly unprepared soldiers sent into doomed assaults. These observations align with the recent slowing of Russian advances and underscore the critical issues that must be addressed for Russia to achieve significant territorial gains or conduct more sophisticated operations within their SMO. Also on the map, the engineering support group of Ukraine's 56th Infantry Brigade was seen here deploying silver rivers of concertina wire flowing through a Ukrainian forest, and in some cases, being deployed robotically. So as it turns out, it's been quite an effective tool in defense against Russia's now more than occasional use of infantry and small civilian vehicle attacks. Then also, somewhere in the east, and with an unusually strong focus on Ukrainian activities today it seems, Ukrainian forces successfully rescued 3 severely wounded soldiers stranded for a month near Russian positions using an Ardal ground drone, all as part of this now reported on rescue operation. As the story tells, after conventional evacuation methods failed due to enemy attacks, the drone traversed 17 plus kilometers of difficult terrain under fire, completing the 4-hour rescue operation with support from over 50 personnel using electronic warfare equipment and aerial support, demonstrating the potential for ground robotics in combat evacuations. Another movie in the making as well, no doubt. Unfortunately, Ukraine has enough of them. Then headed across to some news for today. So, Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov has most recently stated that ongoing US-Russian negotiations are unlikely to result in lightning-fast results, quote-unquote, contrary to US President Donald Trump's stated objective of achieving a general ceasefire and lasting peace agreement in Ukraine in the near future. Peskov told Kremlin journalist Pavel Zarubin, who, by the way, is a very popular Russian journalist, but who is unquestionably also a bought and paid for Kremlin propaganda propagator. As Peskov followed on to tell Zarubin that everything is moving very well regarding US-Russian bilateral talks and discussions about the war in Ukraine, but also stated that there will likely not be immediate results. Hopefully most world leaders don't find this to be a surprise, where it's reminded me of where I used to say every week practically at the beginning of this channel that you have to judge Russia by its actions, not its words. Then to some Ukrainian hardware news. So, for the first time, Ukraine's unmanned systems forces have unveiled their new laser weapon dubbed the Trizub. It can destroy drones and missiles at up to 3,000 meters and aircraft, helicopters and recon drones at up to 5,000 meters. Trizub's not just a laser, it's an upcoming funeral for Moscow's drone circus. This laser weapon is currently in its prototype phase, featuring only manual targeting at this stage. However, with further refinement and eventual integration of automated targeting systems, combined with an exceptionally low cost of just a few dollars per laser shot, these devices are poised to revolutionize air defenses in the future, and perhaps much closer than we think. Although the US, Israel, and South Korea have some level of combat operational variance, but it's just a matter of time before they are everywhere, ubiquitous, as they say. Now, these systems offer significant advantages due to their speed of light engagement, allowing them to strike targets instantly without any projectile travel time, or technically at about 300,000 meters per second, which is a capability that makes them particularly effective against fast-moving drone and missile threats. Equally as impressive is this Ukrainian prototype's relatively compact design and its portability when used in combination with a vehicle. They could theoretically be everywhere. deployed across land, air, and sea. And speaking of, because in another hardware update, as the Unmanned Systems Forces have introduced a new naval anti-ship drone, the very modernized and stealthy looking Alligator 9. The naval drone itself is a platform on which various other means can be placed. For example, the officially stated option of installing the above-mentioned Trident or Trizub laser complex, or using the platform as a carrier for smaller drones such as the Alligator 5 TODs, which would perform the function of kamikaze drones, but also torpedoes, ultimately providing this new naval drone with a key combination of offensive and defensive features, putting into further question any ability for Russia to project its naval power in the Black Sea. Speaking of, 3 years ago to this very day, when Russia's Moskva sunk in the Black Sea, Russia's pride of the Black Sea, on the night of April 13/14, taken out by Ukraine's indigenously developed first-generation Neptune missiles. Which is a very good segue into the next news, as German Chancellor-in-Waiting Merz doubled down on his willingness to bolster Ukraine's defense with the German-manufactured Taurus air-launched cruise missile. Following a serious Russian attack on Sumy from yesterday, dubbed the Sumy Palm Sunday attacks, Merz condemned the assault as a war crime and emphasized Kyiv's need for support to turn the tide in the conflict. The Taurus missile, boasting a range of over 500 kilometers, would empower Ukraine to target critical Russian assets, including the strategically vital Crimean Bridge. This move marks a significant shift in Berlin's military aid policy, potentially deepening the impact on the ongoing war. Of course, some would argue that it's too little too late, especially now given Ukraine's serialized production of the Neptune missiles, including one such variant called the Long Neptune that has a range of 1,000 kilometers or about 620 miles. Nevertheless, Ukraine would never say no to additional firepower in the event that the political will follows from Germany's new incoming government on May 6. And as a more broad reminder on this short and medium range missile strike capability that Ukraine has, there is only 3 or so days left until the semi-official 30-day Russian-Ukraine energy strike ceasefire is over. Technically, it would end on Thursday night, which means we might see earlier Friday or Saturday morning coming into the weekend, having the week go out with a bang on Russian territory. Then to squeeze in a quick final segment for the day to a Russian hardware segment, as Russia's much-hyped Su-75 fighter jet may never fly, as per numerous analyst reports. Now, going back in time to 2021, Russia unveiled the Su-75, nickname Checkmate, and not to be confused with the Su-57 jet, where Russia unveiled this stealth fighter with grand promises at the Max Air Show, aiming to rival the F-35 as a budget-friendly 5th-generation jet for export markets like that of India and Vietnam, boasting a 1,800-mile range, Mach 1.8 speeds, and stealth features. The single-engine jet was pitched at around $30 million per unit in US dollars, with plans for 300 sales. Yet, fast forward to now, April 2025, analysts warn that the Su-75 may never fly, due to Western sanctions, a strained Russian economy, and the Ukraine war now draining resources towards ground operations, all amounting to stalling the progress on another Russian paper tiger. With no prototype beyond a mock-up and delayed test flights, originally sent for 2023, then 24, then this year, and now pushed forward to 2027, the Su-75's fate seriously hangs in the balance. Another T-14 Armata tank. So that has to be it for today, guys. Thanks again for watching. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe, and I do hope to see all of you guys there in the next one. Cheers!